Hello, people. How are y'all doing this weekend? Jason here. I'm going to talk a little bit about all the paradigm shift that's going on. A lot of changes going on in the world right now, and there's a lot of people that are, just so sick of the pandemic, and there's still so much fear in the world, but there's a lot of good stuff going on, and I think it's getting ignored for the most part, even by a lot of good people. Are still stuck in the mindset of convinced that the New World Order is gonna win. It's a done deal. They've got all the power, and the people, they're not gonna stand up. And even if they did stand up, what can we do about it, right? And there's no hope. It's pretty hopeless, and censorship everywhere, and vaccines, and there's a lot of suffering in the world, and it does look pretty bleak when you stay focused on the news, even sometimes the independent news, but particularly the mainstream news, and all those who are focusing on what you might call the evil people, the elites, the cabal, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, the people behind the scenes that want to control your life, that don't want you to be free, that don't want you to have free access to information and truth, and don't want to allow free debate on platforms like YouTube and Twitter. The fact that they're being forced to censor so many people is just proof of how widespread this awakening is. People, everywhere I look, I see signs that we, normal humans that are not insane, that do not want to enslave our fellow neighbors, and do not want to be told that we cannot live life as a human being for the rest of our lives because of some virus, invisible enemy, that we have a really, really super high chance of surviving. So, but the people don't believe that anymore. And yet we're convinced that despite waking up, all these people waking up to the lies and the false dichotomies and the division and the ways they divide us and keep us divided. People are waking up to this, and they're breaking free from all of these invisible and also visible chains that are holding humanity back and have been for not just decades but centuries. And that's what this paradigm shift is all about. It's not just, stopping a system that was set up 100 years ago, although the modern aspects of the system was. It's about a total shift from the old way of thinking that's been ingrained in our minds and our way of life by the institutions around us for hundreds, probably thousands of years, that we've been stuck in this way of living and thought systems and thought constructs and beliefs that have pretty much kept us disempowered and in various forms of slavery and suffering and misery and the dark ages. They're wearing off. People have had enough, and they're seeing through the illusions. And I see the signs everywhere I go. I mean, people taking their masks off. People that are still wearing their masks, they don't get angry at you. A lot of people are, leaving the cities for the country. A lot of people are leaving restrictive nations like the U.S. for places that are more free, like Mexico. A lot of people are leaving the rat race, and I mean a lot of people, like hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people leaving the rat race for various forms of self-employment or camping, van life, camping lifestyle. That's what I've done for temporarily. There's a lot of communities popping up where people can live more lives closer to nature without having to work their entire lives away just to eat food and pay rent or mortgage. And they're happier, freer, and they're thriving, both physically and, more importantly, spiritually and mentally and emotionally. So all this stuff is happening. Of course, the media is not going to talk about it, but I see it everywhere I go. People, it's obvious if you just turn off the news and get out into nature and see the beauty. That's a good first step. And that's what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people are turning off the news and realizing that it's all a bunch of nonsense, and doesn't matter that particular facts or opinions based on facts are not being allowed to be discussed. We all know that the government doesn't care about us. We all know Big Pharma doesn't care about us for the most part. We've known this for years, but we get sucked back into this way of thinking of, but we gotta vote and we gotta choose new politicians to fix this system that doesn't care about us, and maybe the next ones will be able to fix it. So really, just look at 9/11, look at cancer cures. So many, cures or treatments, successful treatments for cancer, and they can't hide it. They censor it, they suppress it, they ridicule it, but they can't keep the average people from finding out about it, because so many people have cancer and so many people are learning about alternative treatments, and it works, and they get healed. And so their family and friends obviously learn about it, and then they spread, the word to their family and friends. And so, it might not just the whole COVID pandemic narrative that's bringing down this illusion. It goes way beyond that. People are waking up on all levels. They're seeing the wealth disparity when I think the three richest, I hope I'm not wrong, but the three richest billionaires in the U.S. own more than the lower 50% of Americans. So three men own more than 150 million Americans, and everyone can see that that's wrong. No one can deny that that's wrong and corrupt, and it's not sustainable, and it's not right, it's not human, it's not humane. It's what is wrong with people. Obviously greed is what's wrong with people, but focusing on the rich and constantly attacking the rich and ragging on the rich, that doesn't actually help solve the problem. But more and more people are realizing that, and they're realizing that we can get free of this without we don't have to get rid of these rich people. We just build our own communities, build our own systems where we're free of their manipulation of everything. The news, the media supply. We get free of the consumer mentality, get rid of this materialistic and militaristic empire. We can just leave it behind, and that's the bigger shift that's going on, is people are realizing that not only do they not have to live in fear anymore, but it's a shift to self-empowerment, responsibility, realizing we all have the responsibility to do something, to take control of our lives, and maybe voting for more corrupt, lying politicians to fix a system that's designed to subsist on enslaving us. Maybe that it's not fixable, and maybe what we have to do is just withdraw our consent and our support and our attention, and stop giving it our attention, because whatever we focus on, that's where our energy flows to. So if we're focusing on all of the bad stuff that looks like it's going to happen if things don't change for the better, we're actually giving that, that global tyranny, that march to tyranny, that new world order, we're giving it our energy, even if it's negative energy, even if we're opposing it and exposing it. If we give it too much time, too much thought, even to try to expose it, we're still giving it our energy. And that helps it thrive, even though that's what we don't want to do. So we need to withdraw our energy from the system entirely as much as possible. Stop focusing on what we don't want and start focusing on what we do want. And, that's actually happening all around. If people just look around them, they can see the signs for themselves. But it takes a little dedication to maybe get out of the normal loops of information feedback they're used to. Well, I know for me, even now sometimes it's difficult to not want to look into the news to see what's going on, and it's good to be informed, but if you just give too much of your time to that, it's only going to hold us back as the human race, as a species, from where we're heading, and we are heading there. It's inevitable. I mean, that's my opinion, but it seems pretty inevitable. People are making real changes in their lives on the inside and externally, and it's visible. People are fleeing the organized religions. I mean, especially the really fear and guilt-based churches, they're fleeing them for either their own more individual spiritual paths or for other churches or maybe spiritual groups that are more tolerant, more loving, more focused on, helping the sick and the needy rather than on preaching about converting people or condemning you for all the bad things you've done in your past. That's only going to keep you in your past. The only way to rise above the past is to forgive yourself and let go of the guilt and live in the present moment. And a lot more people are living in the present moment. It's really a shift from fear to freedom, from slavery and all the things that keep us mentally and physically in chains, to self-empowerment, from blame. A lot more people are blaming others less for the world problems and taking personal responsibility to do what we can, even if it's only a little thing. Everything we do makes a difference. And if it makes us feel good, we're in a better state to, have more ideas, more imagination works better abilities to make our dreams come true, better abilities to think in the ways that will get us where we want to go if we are feeling happy and joyful and living in the moment and not worrying about all the possible evils. So the irony is that if we want to stop the evil that's coming for us, we have to more ignore it and pretend like it's not even there and just focus on the good that we can do. And thankfully, I mean, maybe not enough people yet that you can see it everywhere, but if you're looking, it's there. The signs are everywhere, and they really, all they have left at this point is division. And that's deeply ingrained within us to view certain people, political opponents, religious opponents, the elite, the rich, whatever we view as the enemy, the biggest threat to our lives, we view them as our enemy, and we tend to get angry at them and attack them and hate them, and that keeps us divided. So, but that's really all they've got, because people are aware of all the corruption and all the fact that Big Pharma is making billions off of sickness, and people are becoming more aware that their diet is causing these chronic diseases, and that simply eating more fruits and vegetables and less fats and just living a healthier lifestyle, just getting more fresh air and less smartphone time actually makes you smarter and healthier and less dependent on a corrupt system that's making billions off of your disease. People are waking up to all of this. And it's impossible to miss the number of documentaries that are popping up all around just in the past, 5 years. Thrive's a good one for those who haven't seen the Thrive documentary. I guess it has a sequel. I haven't seen the second one yet, but that's a pretty powerful film, and just so many on all different levels of spiritual realities and the way the system works and empowering people and things we can do. All this documentaries and information is out there. It is so widespread. From my perspective, it's impossible to think that we are not the majority. It's just that when you look at it from the TV perspective, you could have 99 out of 100 people that are living their life as if the media narrative is not even in existence, and the media would be able to somehow still report it as if those 99 people were the crazy minority fringe conspiracy nuts, and the one lone person that still bought into this media narrative, they're the majority, because they'd be able to go out and hire a bunch of people maybe, and they just film those people they hired and say they're the majority, and then they would just put the camera on the one at the edge of the crowd and say that one is the minority, and that's what the media does. They don't ever paint the whole picture, and they're never going to tell you about all of the happenings in the world right now that are indicating that they're losing this war for the people's minds and hearts. Fear is losing its grip. It really is. I can see it. I can feel it. I can feel the change in the air, and maybe it'll get more chaotic. You know, the suffering of all that's been caused from this pandemic was, I think, pretty necessary to kind of shake people out of their slumber. Suffering is really a catalyst for change and for awakening, and I think it's succeeded in that. I think it's backfired, really, from their perspective. I think now, don't think they really expected so many thousands upon thousands of doctors to stand up and risk their careers to, voice their opinions based on, oftentimes decades of in the medical profession. They're professionals, and they're being told by these big tech executives that no matter how many thousands of them they have that dispute the official story, somehow they're wrong, and they're a fringe minority, and it's just getting to the point where everybody sees through it. Obviously not literally everyone, but I think enough that even those who are still going along with the agenda deep down, they know it's not based on facts, and I think deep down they're not buying into it, and a lot of people are, making the changes, and this paradigm is shifting, and we are becoming more powerful and more connected with each other, and with nature, and with a spirit, source, God, however you like to call it. The power that created us, the power that lies within all of us, that connects all of us, that really the ultimate truth that cannot be put in words is just unconditional love, I guess, would be the best way to describe that power, force, being, however you might see that. In any event, we're all becoming, as we go through this transition, this paradigm shift, we're all becoming more powerful, inner power, and we're all becoming more, a lot of us anyway, more in control of our destiny, basically. We're beginning to write our own stories instead of allowing a few handful of corrupt people that really don't care one bit about us to write our story for us. And that's what's happening, and it's going to take a while before all of the, before it's physically manifested to the point where a lot of people see it. But for those who look, it's there, right below the surface, lurking there, and it's being made more and more manifest every day. From my perspective, I can see it anytime I get my mind off of the negative cycle of news and look for the positive. I can often even see the positive within their own stories, but especially when I get off of that loop of negativity in the news and look for the more positive stories, or just listen to the people in the stores, in the streets, around me, and listen to them, it becomes obvious that the story we're being told by the powers that be is not the way it is. We are the silent majority, and we are slowly but surely beginning to make our voices heard, not by chanting in the streets, although that does happen, and that's the number of millions that do protest all of the craziness that's going on is just another sign that we are not the minority they make us out to be. But that's not the way we're really making our voices heard in a meaningful way to bring about real change. We're making our voices heard by the products we do and don't buy, by the systems that we do and do not support. Maybe a lot of people these days are deciding they're not paying taxes to a government that spends half the money on war because they don't want to support war anymore. And there's people, like I said, getting out of the rat race, and a lot of people living more simple lifestyles. They're happier, and the materialistic consumer empire, corporate empire that's polluting, everything, food, water, air, and pretty much killing us, chronic disease, and then profiting off of it, turning around and profiting off of it. People are aware of this, and they're slowly building alternatives, alternative systems, free energy. All this stuff is happening behind the scenes, and here and there in little places all around the entire world, people are making a difference, and people are creating alternatives, and people are becoming more aware of them, whether it's alternative healing, alternative communities, alternative energies, alternative ways of thinking. And all they have left at this point, the only way they can continue to keep us as a whole in any form of slavery at this point, is by keeping us divided. That's all they have. That's it. So they get us arguing. Over socialism versus capitalism, because we can all see the wealth disparity. We can all see the problem. So they want us arguing over two design solutions that, in my opinion, well, they're proven, both of them, at least in any way that they've ever been implemented in the historical context, have not succeeded. Communism has not succeeded to bring equality, and the capitalism, at least the crony capitalism that we have had ever since the Industrial Revolution, which really was a devolution of the humanity. It was definitely a revolution in the technology, but as the technology got smarter, humans got dumber and more separated from each other. But the point being that capitalism, or what we call capitalism, that crony capitalism, it has also failed. So you got people arguing for two proven failed methods as the solution to a failed system, when it's clear for anyone to see that if any 3 men or 6 men, few men, handful of men, one handful of men can own more wealth than over half of the entire population of 300 million, more than 150 million Americans, that's clearly a problem of greed. Greed, obviously. I mean, which one of us could have that much money and not share it, right? But instead of realizing that maybe we have a lot more money than this guy next to us that we could actually share our money with, we point our fingers at them and say they're the evil ones. I'm not saying they're not, but really think having a government system that's been proven to be liars and corrupt is taking more money from the rich. Somehow they're going to actually redistribute it equally among us poor people. And do you really think, after all this whole century of trickle-down economics, that it's ever going to work? So you think it's really going to trickle down to those on the other side of the spectrum? Clearly, it's a distraction, in my opinion. And this is just one of many ways where they use their knowledge of us knowing what the problem is, and then they give us two predetermined solutions to choose from, like the left and right. Socialism, capitalism, left, right. So many other ways. You gotta be a Christian or a Muslim or an atheist. There's nothing else for you to choose. So they put these predetermined choices in front of you, and not telling you that the actual one in your own best interest is the one they're not going to tell you about. There's a third option or a fourth or a fifth option. They don't tell you about that option because that's the option that would actually lead to their demise. And since they're the ones preventing us from thriving, they really don't want us to realize that, because, well, they would die. And I don't mean people, I mean the system would die, and the greedy people would not be able to wouldn't be sustainable. Their wealth would not be sustainable anymore without the system propping it up. Anyway, part of the paradigm shift is to continue to move past these divisions. Being divided based along color of our skins, is just absolutely ridiculous. And most of us are not really divided against each other, black and white, but the media makes it so that we kind of are, even though deep down in our hearts we really don't want to be. But a lot of us somehow do it anyway because, I don't know, that's how propaganda works. It gets to people. And people, I think, want to be divided. They like that. It's so ingrained, but that's one of the final steps in this paradigm shift is, we're aware of the problems and we're aware of the lies and the corrupt nature of those giving us the solutions, but we don't want to let go of that division. We don't want to let go of that. Maybe that for some of us it's that victim mentality. We want to stay victims. We might not realize it at a conscious level, but deep down, we want to stay victims. We want to be able to still point our finger at them and say it's their fault. It's those evil commies. It's those greedy capitalists. Yeah, they both have good arguments and they both have valid points. But deep down, the problem is greed, and a lot of us, we're greedy to an extent. We wouldn't be willing to share. And then when someone points out the obvious that sharing is the natural solution to greed, some of us will just say, no, sharing's not the solution. I don't want to share. They don't say that latter part, but it's probably what they're thinking. Of course, sharing's not the solution. The solution is a system where we don't have to share. Well, if we don't have to share, then it pretty much means there's no free will. Because the only way in which sharing wouldn't be necessary is a place where we're forced to share with each other. In which case, our freedoms would be gone. Thankfully, people are realizing these things, and people are realizing that concepts that were once considered fringe, super nutty solutions are now actually being more widely accepted as, the most maybe moral and philosophically sound possibilities. Agorism and, anarchy. I know a lot of people, bad connotation, sounds like violence in the streets and, the people with the more guns would just take from everyone else and it'd be horrible violence. Our cities would be burning to the ground and the poor would be, there'd be thousands of poor people starving in the streets and anarchy. Kind of like the system we have right now. But since we're used to it, we accept it. But not very many of us are, very many of us are no longer accepting it, and we realize that just because they paint these words with certain pictures doesn't mean that's the accurate portrayal of what those words actually represent. And in reality, anarchy is just self-rule. If you do not want to take the responsibility to rule your own life, I guess you should be able to have the right to allow someone else to rule you, but you shouldn't have the right to give those people the power to rule everyone else who does not want to be ruled by those people. Shift is happening, people. I can see it, I can feel it, I can hear it. The sound of revolution is definitely in the air, and it's not being televised. Of course, it'll never be televised. Turn off your TVs. That's the solution. Get out into nature. Take responsibility for your own life. Find ways to make yourself happy. If you are living in a situation that is bringing perpetual, suffering, find a way to get out. I've been camping for, I think 19 months now. Since I left the rat race. Took a leap of faith into the unknown for sure, and definitely hasn't been all, perfect. Of course, there's still struggles, but I, overall, in the long run, slowly feel more free and happier, and, I'm in the desert. It's actually, even the desert, can be kind of pretty. Some mountains, cool rocks around, and I never thought I'd be able to go this long without working, a 9-to-5 or whatever job that I didn't find fulfilling, and I'm not opposed to work either, but, now I'm headed off soon enough. I'll be headed off to the mountains where Geronimo grew up, in the Chiricahua Mountains on the New Mexico border. I'm going to have a break from internet completely. probably for a week. I don't think I'll have any cell reception, so that'll be nice. It's always good to get away from the system entirely. Good to unplug yourself from all external news and just be in the surrounding reality, whether that's in the city or in the country. And I'm gonna go volunteer at some farms in Arkansas and hopefully check out some communities I've discovered, visit some family. It's all good. Communities, you know, for those hunting for them, they can be found. All different types of communities, all different types of alternate methods of living. They all have one thing in common: they offer more freedom from the system, from the society that is fear-based, that has only one real goal in mind, and that is to keep you enslaved. But that's all changing now, and a lot of resistance to it, but a lot more people are waking up, and I hope this has been inspiring to some of you, and for those who see no hope at the end of this dark tunnel of craziness of so-called pandemic measures, as they now tell us the pandemic is here to stay forever. It's just obvious. That's what they want. They want, of course, total control forever. Of course they're not going to willingly give it up. Is that what you want to accept, or do you want to make a new future? It's up to you and me and everyone else to do it, to be the change we want to see, because no one else is going to do it for us. So, yeah, hopefully this video has been inspiring in some way, and keep your ears open, and maybe you too will hear the sound of revolution. It's echoing all around the world. It's a beautiful sound. Freedom, peace, and love. It's coming. We're bringing it in. More light shining in the darkness. Every day, it's getting brighter. But those who continue to stare at the shadows aren't gonna see it. So focus on what you want to create and not the evil you want to prevent. And the evil itself will die all that much quicker. Have a good one, guys. Hope you guys are all having a great weekend. And yeah, I might upload a couple of the videos I made during my my period of a 1-week ban from my YouTube channel because of censorship. We'll see. But anyway, till next time, Seth bin Jason. Peace.